Howdy and welcome to the Bender Bunker, your online resource for B-Bender and country guitar since 2017. And it looks like you've been cordially invited to a B-Bender buffet in the tasty key of G. You know, it was just a few days back, I was playing over the backing track you just heard, trying to come up with one lick so we could have another installment in our quick lick series where I just throw one lick out to give you some ideas, keep you moving on your Bender journey. But thankfully, the Bender gods that day had different ideas and blessed me with the 4 licks you heard at the intro there. So I'm not going to turn that down when that's offered. And instead of taking those 4 licks and piecing them out individually throughout the rest of this year as quick licks, I decided, hey, let's just throw all 4 licks out there, which will indeed not make it quick at all. We've got a lot to cover today, but can't be called a quick lick. It has to be called a Bender buffet. So I'm excited about that. Now, these 4 licks, they cover most of the neck, as you saw in the intro. We're down here in the open strings, all the way back up to the top octaves in the key of G, all points in between, and it's trying to bring together a lot of, if you've been playing the home game with me here at the Bunker the last 12, 18 months, trying to tie together a lot of what we've been covering. You probably heard the more Mooney-inspired lick. And then we've got one that's coming up the neck. Let's see, we had one that was working the 4 and 2 string together. That's a popular theme around these parts. And then I think we finished strong down here by the open G chord with some open string licks involved with our Bender. So we're going to tie it all together, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I would say grab your seat at the buffet table. Bring that guitar along and maybe take a few notches off that belt because we've got 4 very rich and heavy entrees coming your way, but oh so tasty. All right, that's all I've got for you. Strap in, let's go now with the B-Bender buffet. Just came from the kitchen. Looks like the servers are about to come out with entree lick number 1. Looks hot and tasty straight off the stove. I'm excited. Let's cover a couple quick things that are universal to all 4 of the licks while the servers are getting our plates ready. What I've done is go to the details section below, expand that out. You're going to see links 1 through 4 listed there, each with its own individual timestamp. That way, if you take your mouse and click on any of those timestamps, you can go to that specific lick directly in the video and skip everything else. So if there's one you want to really concentrate on, that's the fastest way to get there. Also, by doing that, I think if you just put your mouse on the screen, the chapter should pop up from the bottom. You can click those as well. I just can't test that ahead of time, but that's what I've read should happen. Also, if you'd like to support the channel for future buffets, quick and easy ways to do that. 3 main ways, actually. Just make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're part of the Buffet Bunker family. And we've got a subscription button waiting for you in the bottom corner. Big arrow showing that to you now. So subscribe up so you don't miss any of the future content. Also, that somewhat irritated looking guy that we've all been watching down there at the end of the table, I do not remember inviting them, but they always seem to show up at every one of our lessons. I've confirmed that is indeed the YouTube algorithm. And the only way I can find to ever make that algorithm happy is just quick thumbs up if you're enjoying the buffet and the content in general. I've tried beer, I've tried wine. Nothing seems to make the algorithm happy except the thumbs up. So let's do that because there's nothing worse than an angry algorithm at a buffet, am I right? And then finally, in that details section below I just mentioned, you'll see the Bender Bunker's PayPal account if you'd like to send over what we call a virtual beer donation amount of your choice. Remember, there's nothing too little or too large for that matter. All right, I see the servers. Let's get ready for entree lick number 1. All right, the first entree has indeed been plated, I believe, as they say. If you don't mind passing me the Tabasco, thank you. Hey, let's make sure we've got the right lick before we taste it. That's the one. All right, let's learn it, and let me throw out a couple of things to make this go quickly so we can move on to entree number 2. I want you to visualize a starting and an ending point on this lick. The starting point will be basically like a G bar chord. The ending point will be that same exact G bar chord, but up here an octave higher. All right, start, finish. Next thing I want you to think about is we're only using the top 3 strings. So we know where we're starting, we know where we're finishing, and we know we're only using the top 3 strings. Next thing that's important to know is it takes us 6 positions to get from start to finish on those top 3 strings. So we know there's 6 things involved, the Bender with most of them. And then of those first 5 of the 6 positions, the high E string, the top of our top 3 strings, is going to drone open. We're not going to do anything else with the high E till we get the very last 6 position. The first 5, it drones open. Okay, so that's going to make things go a little quicker about what I'm doing when you watch me do it. So loud that we know that the high E drones open of the first 5 of the 6 positions, let's go over the positions with our fingers and then we'll circle back for what the Bender does. All right, we are doing the 3-4, that second string, third string, 3-4 position right there. Position 1. We move up here to the 6-7 for 2, position 2. Up here, position 3 is going to be 8-10. Position 4 is 10-12. Position 5 is a little different. Leave your finger on the 3rd string 12th the way you had it, and then add your little finger into the B string 13. So it's 13-12 for position 5. And then finally, we get to that last of the 6 positions, our ending point, which is that high G, octave high bar chord, top 3 strings of that. So that's going to be 15, 15, 16. And that's the first time the high E doesn't drone. So here we go. 6 positions. Now let's go over the picking and what the bender does. I'm going to do it slowly now that you know where my fingers are already going to go. I played it with my fingers. You can also play it with the pick just as well. All right, let's get into the weeds now on this one, shall we? Position 1, as they say, assume the position. And so position 1, I'm doing a 3rd string, 2nd string triplet and muting it with my palm to get things started, because that just sounds twangy. And then we start the actual riff, which is going to be starting on your B string to take the bender up. Do the first of your high E drones, one quick note. They're matching actually. And then go ahead and come back for your G string there on the 4th. And then the bender comes down. You slide up now with your finger on the 3rd string to the next position, which is going to, of course, be 7th. Your index finger falls easily behind it there on the 6, and you do the same thing. Bender goes up, high E drone, back to the G string, go to the next position, bender comes down. So the bender, watch that rhythm. It's actually going up and down in each of the positions till we get to the very top. That's position 5. That's the only time it doesn't come right back down. We leave it open, okay? So let's try it again here. Position 1. Up with the B string. High E drone, back to the 3rd string. Bender comes down. Then you're going to slide up. You're going to hear that 3rd string sliding up position 2. When you get there, straight up into the B string and the bender. High E drone, back to the 3rd string. Do the same thing. Bender comes down, sliding into position 3. When you get there, immediately hit your B string and take it up. Open high E drum, back to the 3rd string, bender comes down. Bender comes down, position 5, same thing. Now we're already there, so I'm probably not sliding really into that. I've already got it on the 3rd string 12th. I'm just switching up to the B string 13. Now, the bender's not coming down. I did the 3rd string, hit the B string, took it up. Did the high E drum for the last time. And then I did back to the B string, still with the bender held. Those are all kind of ringing. Bender's still engaged. Now what I'm doing is the final position, which is the top 3 strings of your high octave G bar chord. So I'm moving up real quick, index finger covering the top 2 on the 15th, letting my middle finger go to the G string 16th. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to start on the high E, work my way down to let the bender down. Just those top 3 strings. Now the bender's unengaged. Now you've just got those top 3 strings of that high octave G bar chord just made to let that down. Keep them exactly where they are, and I want you to work your way back up to take the bender up, okay? So start with the 3rd string 16th, work your way up to the B string, take the bender up, and then hit that high E to complete that whole 3-string passage. Hold the bender up for a second, keep it engaged. Now switch over, visualize a D chord, and just make that D chord an octave up. So that's 2nd string 15th and 3rd string 14th. Don't really need to hit the high E. I'm leaving it open, but I'm not hitting it. And I'm gonna unengage the bender that I've kept engaged by then hitting, I'm up picking, I'm going 2nd, 3rd string with that high octave D chord shape. So remember, I took the high octave G bar chord up, switched over to the high octave second and third string of the D chord, and then up picked it back down with the bender. And the reason I'm doing that is if you go back and listen to the intro with the backing track, this isn't G, but it goes to the 5 chord, which is a D. So at the end of each of these 4 entree licks I'm showing you, I'm going to have a brief moment in D to play along with the backing track before I can get reset to go to my next G lick, okay? So that's why we're doing this. All right, bender's back down. We're going to finish with this lick, very classic bender box for G. I'm sliding with, it can be your middle or ring finger. 3rd string 12th. That allows your index finger to fall on the top 2 on the 10th. Cover those. As you're sliding 3rd string 12th, pre-engage the bender. Won't hear it, but you're doing it. Index finger drops to the top 2 on the 10th. Start with the high E, go to the B to let the bender down. And then back to that 3rd string 12th you never move from once you slid into it. Bender's down, and just go ahead and blast all 3 back up. Let it down to finish. All right, here we go. Let's get on out here with entree 1. All right, entree 2, I see it coming. Looks tasty. Let's get on to that one. Entree number 2 is now ahead of us. We might as well just call this one Moon Pie because it does echo back to the Waylon Jennings lesson we did a while back, the Ralph Mooney opening to Rainy Day Woman, and entree number 2 sounds like this. Let's dive into entree lick number 2, shall we? Now, it's important to think about your D chord shape substituting for G. And so that's what we're doing. So we're making a D chord all the way up here on the neck. So that's high E 7th, B string 8th, G string 7th. And that is the position we're going to be working out of to start this lick. So what I'm doing there is I am, with my index finger, sliding in on the 3rd string, getting to the target area of the 7th. And then when I get there, my middle finger falls on the B string right up from it on the 8th. Because I'm forming that D chord shape. And there's 6 notes to this opening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's actually 6 altogether, including the first slide in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, 3rd string index, coming into the 7. Then I hit it again for a note. Then I go with my middle finger on the B string 8th for a note. Come back to the 3rd string 7th, never moved it. Now I'm going to go with my little finger to the B string 10th for a note. And then I'm going to lift that off, and I never moved my middle finger so I can note the B string 8 again. And those are your 6 notes. When I was writing this lick, the best tip I can give you from what I remember writing it is train yourself not to move your middle finger on the 8th when you come into this lick so you don't have to go back to it on that last of the 6 notes. That was a big step for me to do it smoothly. Never moves, right? So there's your 6 notes. Now, notice how your little finger is ready to go on the top 2 on the 10th. Those, of course, are the top 2 notes of our G bender box, so that works out well. We're going to do this. So that's the bender up and down twice is what you just saw. We're going to start, again, little finger, top 2 10th. I'm going to start on the B string, and then 2 notes on the high E next to it. Down, do the same. Bender's still engaged, that's important, keep it that way. Now we're gonna kind of retrace that D chord shape. Now I'm kind of muting because I took my fingers completely off the fretboard for a real split second, and I'm doing this. And this working the D chord shape after that. I'm just going back and forth on the high E between the 8th and the 7th. And then I can come down to the B string 8th, that D chord shape to let the bender down. And then I end on that G string 7th again where I started. Unengaged. Now I'm going to pop up here with my little finger to the top 2 on the 15th, which we learned from lick number 1 is the top 2 of our high octave G bar chord, which is why these notes are going to definitely work in our favor. And I'm going to pre-bend before I get there, and I'm going to go high E, B string on the 15th to let the bender down. So I'm doing a pre-bend, top 2 on the 15th, bender comes down, quick pre-bend again, index finger going top 2 on the 10th, which is of course our G bender box, that's why that works. Same thing, start with a high E, B string down on the bender. And then we finish that out with the G string 12th to complete that bender box for G. Now let's go ahead and keep that position we just made with top 2 on the 10th with our index, and then the 3rd string 12th, I'm using my ring finger. Benders down, and let's retrace our steps. Start with the G string, then the B string, E string to take the bender back up. That's just 1, 2, 3 on the strings, 3, 2, 1. Benders up, hold that for a second. Now let's switch out on the G string and make a D, top 3 strings of the D bar chord. So our index finger doesn't have to move, it's still top 2 on the 10th. I'm just switching over to my middle finger on the G string 11th to make the top 3 strings of a D bar chord. Why? Because as I mentioned the last lick, backing track's going to D. This is how we're going to play along with it just for that brief second. And that allows me then to go ahead and uppick those top 3 to let the D down on the bender. So I'm going up in the G on the bender, and I'm coming back down on the bender in D. And then I just did kind of a standard riff to get on out of there. I went down here to like where you're making an open G bar chord. Let's see, I've got my ring finger on the 2nd string 3rd, and then I'm doing the G string 2nd for, and then open. I'm trying to remember what I did, but I think that's what that does is reset me to slide back into the riff because I do it twice. You get the idea. All right, that is the Moon Pie Entree, lick number 2. Try that one on for size. That's a fun one. And leave a little bit of space because lick number 3, Entree 3, is coming up next. Entree lick number 3 is now on the table, and I can tell from the aroma that the chef has used a liberal amount of 2nd and 4th string together. A lot of 2-note double stops, if you will, Bender double stops, which of course is the alias I tend to check into hotels with, Mr. Bender double stop. And our Entree lick number 3 sounds like this. Let's dive into the ingredients list and see exactly how the chef made lick number 3 here. Again, it's really the 2nd and 4th string together, especially out of the gates for those double stops. And there's 3 patterns we need to learn with those 2 strings going up the neck. 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1 back down. So let's knock that out to make things go faster. 2nd string 8th, 4th string 9th for position 1. Same 2 strings going 10, 12. And then same 2 strings going 15, 17. Now when you get the bender involved, already sounds twangier, doesn't it? Okay, so let's knock this out here now. We know the 3 positions, and we know it's all about the 2nd and 4th string. And we're going to start off with position 1. We're not going to use the bender out of the gates. We're just going to do a real twangy triplet. So what I'm doing is I'm sliding into position 1 on string 4, 9th. When I get there, immediately go up to the B string 8th for a quick note, and then come back to more of a dead percussive note than anything to complete the triplet. And also what you'll notice is I'm using my thumb on the 4th string and my index finger on the 2nd string, because when I get into double stop patterns like this, you can really get into chicken picking when you do that. I've tucked the pick in there in case I need it, but I'm going to probably pretty much just use my thumb and index finger because that's the way I wrote it, so I thought I'd show it to you that way. That's the way the chef made it. So here we go. We're going to go into that position 1 triplet. That's all that is. But the minute I hit that last triplet note, I'm already going with my, in this case, middle finger up to position 2, so it's sliding immediately to do a note on the 4th string 12 so that I can go with my index finger to the B string 10th, hit that note to take the bender up. Altogether, that sounds like this. So when I come off that first triplet, I'm already sliding up so you can hear me get to the 4th string 12th and immediately go to the B string 10th for the bender. And then the bender's fully engaged at that point. What I'm going to do, and this is what we do in positions 2 and 3, never do this in position 1, we just do it in 2 and 3, is we're going to do what we've been doing for the most of this meal. I'm going to do a quick open E, high E drone note, and then I'm going to come right back to the 4th string 12. So listen for that. And now what I'm doing is I'm letting the bender down, and you're not really going to hear it, which is fine. That's what you want. You can hear a little bit, and that's okay too. Now I'm going to go up, exact same thing, exact pattern I just did, but I'm going to slide into position 3, so that's 4th string 17th. As I slide in there, then I immediately go with my index finger up to the B string 15th, take the bender up. Then I drone a quick high E open, and then back to the 4th string 17th. Same thing we did down there in position 2. Bender's still engaged. Now I'm letting it down. Nobody needs to hear it. That's perfect. And the bender's unengaged. So now we're going to work our way back down. I'm going to go ahead and... So just come off position 3, bender's unengaged. I'm going to slide back into position 2. That's the 4th on the 12th fret. And then I'm going to do right into that B string 10th, take the bender up like we did before. I'm going to do the high E open drone, but I'm not going back this time to the 4th string 12th like I did before. So here's what we got. Bender's still engaged. I'm going back to position 1, and when I get there, I'm going to do a real percussive note on the 4th string 9th, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit the B string 8th to let the bender down. We've just done our complete round trip of 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And the bender's unengaged. So now we're going to go back to the 4 and 2 string in position 2. I'm going to use, I'll probably use either my middle or my ring finger to get back to the same thing. 4th string 12th, and then the index finger with my index finger on the B string 10th. I'm also going to cover the high E 10th as well here pretty quick, so just get ready for that. And so I'm going 4th string back into the B string 10th to take the bender up. Hold the bender for a second. I'm going to do a quick high E. This is a very classic bender box G lick here we're about to do. You probably already know this one. I'm going to do with my little finger a high E 12th note. Come back to the B string 10th with the bender still engaged. Going to hit the high E 10th, already covered. Come back to the B string to let the bender down. And then pop back down to the G string, 3rd string 12th. So again, we start on the 4th string 12th, straight to the B on the 10th to take the bender up. High E 12th, B string, high E, B string bender down, and then 3rd string 12th. Bender's unengaged. We've also now still got the index finger covering the top 2 on the 10th, and in this case I've got my ring finger on the 3rd string 12th, the classic G bender box shape. And what I'm going to do is just going to start on the 3rd string and go 3, 2, 1 up. When I get to the 2nd string, I'm going to take the bender up with me. That's all you hear. Bender's engaged, and then what I'm going to do is with a trick we just learned before, because the backing track's going to D, I'm going to substitute the 3rd string 12th to the 3rd string 11th, just switch over to my middle finger there. Index finger never moved off the top 2 10th. We've created the top 3 strings of a D bar chord, so that's going to sound great. When we let this down, I'm pretty much just grabbing the 2nd and 3rd string for this. So again, up with G, down with D. Bender's unengaged. All right, so then we're going to do this, let's do this little lick to get on out of here for number 3. So I'm going to pop up with my little finger and cover the top 2 on the 15th, which of course, as we learned before, is going to be the top 2 of the high octave G bar chord. That's why it sounds so nice and twangy for us in G. And I'm going to just do 3 notes. I'm going to start with the B string, take the bender up with it, then the high E right away, and then come back to the B string to let the bender down. Triplet with the bender up and down. And then let them ring and don't move your little finger. Just let it rest there. Nice ring for G. And that gives us time to take our index finger down to the G note, which is going to be your 3rd string 12th. And when I get there, I do a quick I grab that note and I let it kind of ring sympathetically with the B string 15th that's still being held. And then no more bender at this part. Then what I'm going to do is a classic country bend that's not involving the bender for G. This is an old standard. And I'm going to take my middle finger, let it drop down now to the 3rd string 14th. And then I'm going to hit the 2nd and 3rd string together and just only bend up the 3rd string 14th a full step. Maybe give it a double like that. So what we have in this sequence is... All right, all together. There you go, the 2nd 4th string bender entree lick number 3. I thought it was tasty. Let's finish strong. What are we having for the 4th and final lick? It's snow crab. I think snow crab's coming. Lick 4 coming up next. Alas, we come to the end of the B bender buffet with our 4th and final entree. I do apologize, I wasn't wearing my glasses. It's not snow crab, it of course is the chef's favorite dessert to finish strong with, the flaming baked Alaska. And as soon as the flames die down on top of this delicacy, we're about to dig into what could best be described as a B-bender open string extravaganza. And it's gonna sound and taste a bit like this. I definitely sweet talked the chef out of his recipe. I'm gonna share it with you now as we get into this 4th and final B-bender lick, and it's going to start right off with some bending and then go into primary. The first part of bending is going to be in what I call the 7th shape for the key of G. Just visualize a D 7th chord moved up to here. So the top 3 strings on your frets would be 7, 6, 7. And that's what we're going to be doing a lot of our bending out of the gates here, but we are going to start down here and work our way into that pattern. So I'd like you to put your index finger on the 2nd string 1st fret and then above it on the high E 3rd with your ring finger. So we've got these two. And so pick that B string, your 2nd string 1st, take the bender up immediately and then hit the high E 3rd above it. That's how we start now. The bender's engaged. We're going to slowly let the bender down, and at the same time, as we're letting it down, we're going to start to take our index finger from the 1st fret up to the target of the 2nd string 6th fret, because now we're going to get into that 7th shape I just showed you. So as we slide up from the 1st to the 6th, the bender's all the way down by the time we get there. You can hear the slide too, that's part of it, so get a little bit of that audio then sliding. And when we get there, we're going to do exactly kind of what we just did. We're going to pick that B string 6, take the bender right on up, and then hit the high E 7th above it. So basically what we did down here. Together sounds like this. So just bouncing one into the other, and the bender's still engaged. That's on purpose. We're going to do this sequence now. Go ahead and hit the B string 6 for a note. Take your finger off the high E and do the high E open. Go back to the 6th fret on the B string for a note to let the bender down. And then finish that 7th shape by letting your middle finger go over to the 3rd string 7th for a note. And then believe it or not, go ahead and take your index finger off and hit the 2nd string open next to it to complete it. So the bender's unengaged. We've got the 3rd string 7th and the open B string next to it kind of ringing together. All together. And the bender's unengaged. So now we're going to get into some non-bender parts, some more open string work. Kind of think about this being inside the heart of a G bar chord. It's 4 notes that sound like this. So I sneak down here with my index finger on the 3rd string 3rd. I pick it once and I immediately roll to the 4th fret above it with my middle finger. So 1 pick and a roll. Then I'll let my ring finger go over to the 4th string 5th fret, which is a G note. And then I take my other fingers off so I can do a 3rd string G note next to it and let them drone, because they're the same. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the end there you've got the 4th string 5th and of course the open G string droning together. So all together. Okay, bender's of course still unengaged. We never brought it back up for this section. Now what we're going to do is this. And that's just the 4th and 3rd string together, okay, this sequence. And I'm starting by 1 pick on the open 4th string, immediately roll on the 2nd and 3rd fret with my index and middle, so a pick and then a roll on the 2, 3 frets. Immediately hit the open 3rd string next to it for note, and then come off with my finger to do an open 4th string next to it. So at the end, you've got the 3rd and 4th strings ringing open. All right, all together. Of course, here you've got your 4th and 3rd strings ringing nicely together. You couldn't ask for anything better for G, right? So there you go. So next thing we're going to do after we do this, we're going to let that ring, and we're going to then take our index finger down to the 5th string 1st fret for 1 note. We pick it just once. So pick once on the 5th string 1st, slide it up to the 2nd, back to the 1st, back to the 2nd, but only 1 pick. You end up on the 5th string 2nd, and we finish strong with an actual bottom bass root note of G with our middle finger on the bottom string 3rd. All right, all together kind of slow. Now the backing track goes to D, so this time we're going to do this little move here. So what I'm doing for this sequence is I am starting by hitting an open 4th string, your actual D string. And that allows me to slide in, and this is a 4-2 string pattern. So I'm starting with the open 4th string and sliding with my middle finger to the 4th fret. And that allows my index finger to fall nicely on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. Which is very much a D situation. And then once I get those two ringing together, you can either drop your fingers on top of them or mute it with your palm, but I'm doing kind of 2 triplets of dead notes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's what you're actually hearing. It's kind of hard to do slow. Doesn't sound that good slow. Sounds good fast. And I'm moving way back for maximum twang. And then once I do that, I go ahead and hit that 4th string and then go back up to this B string 3rd and take the bender up. Once I get it up, I go ahead and hit the high E open next to it, which is the same note. And then I go up and down with the bender on the B string. Bender's engaged now. Bender's engaged, still got that D shape together. And what I'm going to do, we're going back to G, so we're going to finish like this. I allow my index finger to cover the top 2 on the 3rd, G, top of your G bar chord. And then I start with the high E into the B string to let the bender down. Let it down kind of quick. And then I shift over to the 2nd string 3rd and the B string 2nd. A quick little waggle on that G string 2nd. And then open. And that's officially it. We ended strong with entree number 4, the open string B-Bender Baked Alaska Extravaganza. Make sure you get your parking validated before you leave. I don't want anybody to get, messed up by the parking garage. And it's sure nice to have you on board the first ever B-Bender buffet table. And if the Bender gods ever strike me with 4 licks at once in the future, we might have B-Bender Buffet Volume 2. You never know. I hope so. I should be so lucky. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate the support. And again, if you haven't subscribed to this craziness, make sure you hit that bottom subscription button before you get on out of here. Let's end with our motto as we always do. I'm a little bit stuffed, but I think I can still get it out. It's never too late to go on a bender, especially if it's buffet style. Hope to see you back here real soon. And until then, keep it bent.